Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Star Trek Discovery, Season 1. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, space whale, space spider, some other anthropomorphic things. Okay, moving on to the good and the bad. So, what I will say is that with this particular Star Trek season review, I'm not going to get into spoilers, because I feel like this show is recent enough, and because the show itself is still ongoing, they're going to have another season come out. I didn't want to do a spoiler review just yet without a spoiler-free review. So here's my spoiler-free review of this. That being said, I may talk about some of the things from like 90s Star Trek, so hopefully you've watched those by now. You've had a couple decades. Okay, so to start off with, to put in perspective, when I first watched this show, I hated it. I hated the first season with a burning passion, so much that I never went back and rewatched it because I just hated every second of it. I thought it was terrible in so many different ways. But A, I'm doing a rewatch right now of just Star Trek in general, and B, the last especially season 4, but the last 3 seasons, like season 2, 3, and 4 of Discovery, have been really, really good. Like especially like 4th season, amazing. I really like this show, so I decided that I'm gonna give season 1 another chance. Rewatched it. First episode's still really rough because there is so much clunky expositional dialogue. Like, I have been with you for 9 years, number one, yes, and you have been with me and taught me all the things, but I'm going to talk about my heritage and my growing up and blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my god. But, on the flip side, having watched it the whole season through, I get that they were... If you watched like just the one episode, then had to wait a week to watch the next one, I could get why like that clunky dialogue is just so terrible to watch. But watching all 15 episodes like fairly rapidly, you get that like the Shenzhou and everything else that happens there and those people, like, yeah, they are the catalyst for a lot of things, but exactly what's going on there, like, we just need to hammer it out to get you situated, because we need to kick off for all the rest of the things that actually matter for this season. So yeah, it's super, super clunky how they establish it, but it's okay because of the next things that happen. I will say I am such a huge fan of Lorca. You eventually get to see Lorca relatively early in, so I don't feel like that's a spoiler, but I am such a huge fan of Lorca. I love every minute that he's on screen. He is like, the actor is just fantastic in most of the things that he does, so I love seeing more of him. I don't know if everyone's going to like it, but Burnham, she talks in an intense whisper so much of the time to really get her point. Like, her whisper, her intense whisper talking thing is one of my favorite parts about her. I know that some people don't like that, but I really do, because of just, she is able to get across that intensity without having to yell. And I think that that's so awesome, because just somebody who is able to get across something even more intense with a whisper than with a yell is just, that is top tier for me. I love that. That is fantastic. So I love how much of her intense dialogue speaking is at a whisper, because she is that quiet, reserved person getting that out, and I'm a fan of that. I love it. They also have a Groundhog Day episode in this. I am always a fan of Groundhog Day episodes and Groundhog Day type movies, so I fucking love it, and they pulled it off perfectly. It was a fantastic episode in the right point in the show. Just nothing bad to say about it. Just fantastic episode, guys. Good job. That's probably my favorite episode of the whole first season. That being said, Klingons. Swallowing the Klingon pill is a little bit easier knowing that they fix it in later seasons. Like, they fix the fact that they're all bald. Like, they fix that later on in later seasons. And then, the exact getup that they're wearing being so, in my opinion, when I first watched it, I'm like, how are you doing any fighting or doing anything else? It's cool looking, but it's so very impractical for the Klingon mindset of, battle. But just deal with it. It's okay, because they fixed a lot of things later on, so just deal with it. And I get that they were trying to make the Klingons seem so much more other by, hey, whenever the Klingons are by themselves and talking, they're going to only talk in Klingon. But it's only when the Federation's around with one of their communicators open doing the translating that will have them speak in English, unless they are specifically talking to the Federation in English. And I get the design choice of that to really highlight that, hey, this is not your brother Star Trek type of thing. But I didn't really care for it because I don't like having to watch or like read subtitles when I don't want to. I like having the option, like with anime, to be able to watch the original Japanese audio and read the subtitles, or have dubbed with no subtitles. I like the option. This does not give you the option. You have to read the subtitles. Eh. The other thing about that is with the design of the teeth and the makeup and all that jazz, like they're so when they talking understand what they're like. It's so hard to understand what they're saying. There's just so much that you can tell that they're just struggling with the teeth and all the makeup and whatnot to get these sounds out. And I think a little bit more ADR without the makeup stuff on would have been beneficial. I also do believe, and minor spoilers, I don't think this is a spoiler, but just like the fact that there's some mirror universe content in this, and I think that they spend the appropriate amount of time on it. That's all I'm going to say for that. And I'm fine with what they did with Sarek. So I know some people are like, what the hell? You're just adding and inserting this blah, 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 blah. Like, don't care. Because Sarek was not a, like, main season cast member in any of the shows, as far as I can remember. So he has a whole life that you don't know about. So, like, what they inserted, so to speak, I think is a very believable thing because it's fine. Because, again, you don't know everything about this person and this person's life. So there's going to be some things that are left on the cutting room floor. So I can totally see that every other instance of Sarek and whatever else going on there, that the other things that we are finding out about this show were just left on the cutting room floor because they were not important to what you needed to know for those instances where you saw Sarek. So I'm fine with that. Sorry if you're not. I'm also glad that they got Clint Howard in this show as like a one-off guest character type of thing, like not even a main guest character, but just like a guy that has a few lines, and I like that because I have liked every one of the characters that he's played in the Star Trek show. So I love seeing him get more work, and he just brings it every time. So shout out to Clint Howard. Also, I love Tilly in this season. Tilly is just so adorable, and I feel like they toned her down a bit in the later seasons, and I get that, you have to, spoiler alert that she survives into the later seasons, but it's Star Trek, so plot armor is a thing. I'm just saying, it's not really a spoiler, I think, but sorry if you felt that way. But I love Tilly, and I get that they, had to mature the character probably over time, which is probably why they toned it down, but I just love it. I love her energy on screen. I love how she talks and her mannerisms and everything else. It's just fantastic. I don't think that they got everything right when they were doing for the updating of the technology and the CGI and whatnot. Like, I don't think they got everything right, but I do think that it was a good attempt at trying to stay true to the technology of the time period that was established in the original series while still updating it for modern audiences. I don't think they got it right. Strange New Worlds definitely fucking got it right, but they had years of fan feedback to get that right. So I think that it was a decent attempt that just fell so far short at the time that it was difficult to swallow. But again, looking back, rewatching the season, especially knowing how the later seasons go, I think that they did a good enough job of updating the technology to make it work. I also like that they had like actual battle armor that they would wear when going into like more dangerous situations. Because why the fuck hasn't Starfleet had that before now? So yeah. Overall, like I said, I like the season. They had really good CGI. The external shots, like combining people and whatnot, like that was good. But when they had just the ships, I don't know if I want to say I saw a news article where they cleaned it up some since it first came out. But this time around, the external shots of the ships were a little bit clearer, but still definitely a lot more, a lot harder to see and make out the differences. Like it is still, I don't want to say blurry, but blurry, fuzzy, if you will, for the ships compared to the other things. But I get that they were trying to go for like, hey, this isn't your daddy's like 90s Star Trek. It's different, so we're using like realistic lighting, so to speak, but it was hard to see some things, and I just think it didn't look as good. It didn't look any less real, but it was just harder to see. So I would have preferred a little bit less. I would have preferred the Orville. The Orville, how they did external shots, looked perfectly realistic to me for facilitating the external shots and being interesting. That being said, there were some like zoom in shots and some zoom out shots and like the reflection. Like they definitely did their homework and did a good job overall on the CGI. They just took an artistic direction that I didn't care for, especially in the first season. I think they did a little bit better in future seasons if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, that's all I have for now for my spoiler-free review. So thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.